All right, teammates. We are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one podcast on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more and more and more and more and more. To my regular listeners, you already know what we do around here, what the expectation is, whatever your challenges, whatever your roadblocks are, whatever you may be facing right now in this current moment, we are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone. Per usual, we have another absolute rock star, Miss Danielle Mulvey, the founder of Check Me. I want to say it nice and slow so you guys catch it and you put your ears nice and close to wherever you're listening to them. The CEO and founder of Five Star Employee Hiring System. Understand me, understand what we do around here. We're all about taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and applying them to businesses. So I'm going to be just as pumped as you guys are to listen because I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to teach some business owner out there how they can make better decisions in regards to who they hire, lessen the turnover rates, and all that kind of stuff. So before I make the intro too long, because I can talk for a while. Danielle, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Aswan.
Yeah, thank you for being on. Thank you for, the work you do, first of all, because what I've learned in the process and especially interviewing tons of folks who, have developed the system up, I want to serve others, is that you don't get there overnight. You don't just wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to build a whole business, a whole brand about helping people find the right folks to hire. So I think the best place to start off is just give us a little bit about your background, some of the experiences you had professionally that led you to a place where you're building a business that's all about helping others, keep the right position and work and stuff.
Yeah. So at the ripe old age of 25, I started my first company. It was an advertising and marketing agency, and I was pretty lucky when I was hiring. My hiring strategy was hire people younger than me.
Yes.
Who had no experience, so they wouldn't know if I was screwing up and
Right.
such. And it wasn't. I was pretty lucky for the first six employees, and then employee number seven was not so lucky.
Hmm.
And I remember waking up one morning. Again, this is 25 plus years ago,
Hmm.
and I rolled over, buried my head under my pillow, and asked myself, can I call in fake sick to my own company?
Your own
Because I did not want to face another day or another week with Larry, Larry. I mean, it's just even talking about it, it's like PTSD.
Now,
Um,
Larry, I'm assuming is the seventh employee that you're referring to.
the seventh employee who was a big mishire on my part, someone I personally hired, a graphic designer, and I was using what people, kind of the winging it way to hire. He was a referral. He was the brother of one of my college classmates.
Hmm.
He had graduated from the same program and school as one of my great five-star graphic designers.
Hmm.
And it was just like, oh, you have a pulse, you graduated here, you
Hmm.
can start Monday, super, you're hired.
Right.
But it just was not a fit.
Right.
And so of course I didn't call in fake sick to work that day, but I resolved myself to take three immediate actions that day. Number one, I moved Larry to alumni status ASAP. I didn't wait till Friday. Like I went in and just said, I'm sorry, today is your last day. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Right.
The second thing that I did was I resolved myself to really understand how to make a great hire and not be winging it anymore. And so that's kind of where like the whole start 25 years ago
Yeah.
goes back to, figuring out how to hire people because most people are just winging it when it comes to hiring. And
Right.
we've been hired for jobs that we shouldn't have been hired for, but we're following those hiring practices that we've
Exactly.
experienced.
Exactly.
And then the third thing was I resolved myself to never settle anymore, and to just if I was going to set the bar, this is where people had to be. And so that just really kind of started my passion and mission for really understanding how to recruit, hire, and retain what I like to call five-star employees.
Yeah.
And so over the years, I have multiple businesses now to this day, and those businesses do over $50 million a year in annual revenue. And I spend 10, 15 hours a week overseeing those businesses because
Mhm.
I'm not having to work in those businesses. I have five-star employees
Yeah.
who take the ball and run with it.
Mhm.
And then I spend the balance of my time, consulting with other entrepreneurs and guesting on podcasts, keynoting, et cetera.
Yes.
Uh, because the problem is that everyone should love what they do.
Yes.
Everyone is a five-star fit for something.
Yeah.
And the problem with most organizations is the employee is just like they got the job, but it's not really what they should be doing for a job.
Well, first of all, I appreciate your transparency and sharing that because I think it's important that people understand, especially you owners listening to me now, it's being nice and being in business are two completely separate things. Your personal and your professional way of doing business, you can't keep doing this to your business. It's your job to make sure the profits are running and make sure you're making the best decisions for your company. And if it means letting someone go, terminating someone on the spot because of what they're causing, you have to have the guts to do that. All right. So I know that wasn't easy for you. However, you did mention that, hey, all of us are not fit for every position. All of us are a five-star employee in some way. So as you kind of look back on these things and you see maybe some of the things that you missed with Larry, how do you go about saying, hey, look, you may not be a fit for this, but not to say that you don't show up or you don't, you're not qualified. You're obviously qualified to do something, but let's establish a system where you're at least applying for the right things. Because I even think I heard you mention too on a previous show I was listening to you, where nowadays we've gotten so reliant on Indeed, we've gotten so reliant on LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and all these things that are just going to do the work for us. And I mean, I could only imagine what AI is doing now, but how do you go about assessing and making sure people understand you're a five-star fit for something? Just may not be this thing. That's your job to figure out what you're a five-star fit for.
Yeah, yeah. So what I think people get too caught up, I think we have to use the job boards. You need to cast a wide net when you're hiring, and you can't really just rely on the job boards. You need to be there.
Yeah.
But the thing about recruiting and hiring and being on the job boards is people are too focused and reliant on job titles.
Yeah.
And so, when you're hiring someone, you need to understand what really are the qualities, the aptitudes, and the skills that you're looking for
Mhm.
that is the ideal hire for you. So, for example, one of my businesses, we process long-term care claims.
Mhm.
And the role is called a claims examiner.
Mhm.
But I don't use claims examiner in my job post title or in my job post
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I don't want people who've been claims examiners for other third-party administrators.
Yeah.
I want a blank slate.
Yeah.
So what I do, and my ideal candidate is
Mhm.
a recent college graduate who was a math major,
Mhm.
who doesn't want to teach. They're not looking for health, they're not looking for claims examiner jobs.
Yes.
So my job post title says ideal for recent college graduate with math degree for
Mhm.
the business side of healthcare.
Right. Man, I'm so glad you're mentioning this right now because I myself, I went my first 3 years of college. I was in three different states, three different, three different universities, doing like in completely different areas. And I left understanding how cultured I was, how much I knew just because of all the different places I've been in. But the challenge becomes when these titles start to come out. Like, okay, are you going to do this with that title? And people pay so much attention to that title. So if there's a business owner listening in, how do you suggest that they go about creating the ideal thing to put out there? Because that's a very strong thing you just put out there. I know math majors say I don't want to teach, but I know math, obviously, and they don't even know these positions exist until they run into somebody like you because it's not on job, or if it is on job boards, it's not even something that they would even look at because they don't know what a claims adjuster is. So, talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So you again, it's kind of taking a little bit of time to understanding who is your ideal candidate.
Mhm.
where you've made great hires in the past. When you peel back those layers of your great hires, the people that you'd want to clone, where did they come from?
Mhm.
Like, what was their background? What was their major? What great skills do they have?
Mhm.
Now, I will say, we'll kind of, I'll have to keep referring to Larry.
Yeah.
But I hired Larry to be a graphic designer, but I never tested his graphic design skills.
Right.
That was pretty dumb. So
How did you
we'll
have?
talk about how to navigate that and how you
That's
can
also
have
because
a
I was
solid.
if you had experience as a graphic designer. So like, how could you even know what a good
Yeah,
graphic designer would be?
well, I should have so I should have given him an assignment.
Right.
But we'll
Yeah.
table. I'll walk your audience through the 5-star fit method in
Yeah. Yeah.
terms of
Good.
how you can get that. But so you know you want to put the qualities and the attributes, the aptitudes and the skills that you need in
Mhm.
the job post title. And so what is it that you need, and where is this person's background? Like, do we've had members of that use our 5-star employee hiring system. Say, are you a CSI fan and a problem solver like Olivia Benson? Um,
Really? So they related to something that they may see on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that is for a role as a financial record keeper for a company that provides guardianship services to the state of Nevada.
Right.
But if we would the job title that they use, and again, like, once I hire these math majors who are recent college graduates, it's an entry level position. Once I hire them, their job title is claims examiner. Like,
Exactly.
but I don't have to use that when someone doesn't know exactly what that is. So we get too caught up in titles, and we need to get focused on the tasks. So
Right.
the other thing
Oh,
is
good point.
is what do you need? But you need to also have in your job post the 3 to 5 key responsibilities that this person will do in this role. And these 3 to 5 key responsibilities should be how they're spending 75-80% of their time during the work week.
Mhm.
And with those key responsibilities, you also want to have the success metrics associated with each of those responsibilities. So, for example, we say that you need to process claims to meet the SLAs of our contract with the state of California, which is a 8 business days turnaround, and we need to be and so the success metric of that is processing an average of 42 claims per day.
Exactly, exactly, and oh man, I gotta pause you there because one of the things that I announce it every single day. So I have a free guide that I let all business owners. By the way, go to freeguide.makingmove.com if you're a business owner. But I have it in a very simple math system, like you put it. It's established measurables plus that professional distance. That's what leads to a productive environment. And when you talk about everything, it doesn't matter what the industry is. You're talking about making sure measurables are being hit and they're known for exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing every day. So I'm curious now because you had mentioned, I want to give you the opportunity to speak on it. When you're talking about the 5-star system, what exactly does it entail? How does it work? Like when people are listening now, they're like, that's a good concept, 5-star system. Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. So the 5-star system starts with when someone applies,
Hmm.
they take an assessment. So no matter what platform they're applying on, Indeed, etc., they're automatically sent our all-in assessment, which is a proprietary psychometric assessment
Hmm.
that assesses
Graphics. There's
a
that word
can
again, folks. Psychographics. It's a word. You better jot it down, business owners. You got to. Hate to cut you off on that one, but that one's I can't let that brush over. Psychographic. How does a MFer think? That's important. So go ahead.
yeah, you're exactly right, because it measures their abilities, their
Hmm.
motivations, their personality. It also gives you their work fit.
Yeah.
So, are they someone who works better in office or remote?
Hmm.
Because again, people throw their hat into a ring when they need a job. They need a job. They are just mass applying. They need a job. Like, they're not being too scrutinizing over things, and they think, oh, well, that'll work for me, or oh, I've always wanted to work from home. But they might be someone who's really just better in office. Some people are good at home, and some people are better in office. And we need all different types in this world, right? And
Yeah.
that's why everyone's a 5-star fit for something, but not everything. I like to call myself a 5-star entrepreneur, but I would be a 2-star bookkeeper. I could get
Exactly.
hired tomorrow as a bookkeeper because I know enough QuickBooks to be dangerous.
Right,
But I
right,
would be a
right.
2-star bookkeeper because I'm too creative. The tediousness of reconciling and the lack of creativity in bookkeeping would kill me. And I would procrastinate. And so that's why I'd be a 2-star bookkeeper.
Yeah.
So again, we're not 5 stars for everything.
Exactly.
Um,
I had a sociology class. I had to go to an essay-based exam because I couldn't do the multiple choice. It was too much. Well, I can make an argument I can make an argument but I can. So there was like, you go to essay-based because your mental is you're all over the place. So, all right. So we have
exactly.
the assessment. Then
So
what?
you have the assessment. And again, we're seeing, are people good with numbers? Are they good with words? Are they good with shapes? Are they good with things and such?
Mhm.
Um and this is because it's a psychographic psychometric test assessment. We're seeing the candidate from many different perspectives, not just personality.
Mhm.
A lot of companies use DISC profile. That's a personality test. And if you go to DISC's website, right there on the homepage, it says, do not use this for hiring
Mhm.
because a personality doesn't tell you if they can do the job.
Amen. Amen to that.
So our 5-star process is about really filtering through the candidates to see who is the ideal 5-star fit for the job. And at each stage, you're filtering people out. So when you put the assessment in at the front end,
Mhm.
and what happens is a candidate takes the assessment and then it's automatically scored against the benchmark for the role. So this is our ideal candidate benchmark.
Mhm.
And each benchmark is different for each role and each company's roles. And so if a candidate scores 70% or higher, then you look at the candidate.
Mhm.
Candidates who don't take the assessment or who don't score 70% or higher are automatically filtered out and they don't move forward in your process.
Right.
So right there, we're getting to the top 20% of applicants objectively, not
Exactly.
subjectively.
Right. And I want
We're
to make sure I make this point too, because there's a lot of you business owners, you got into business because you're very stubborn, all right? And you try to do this process yourself and you will fail mercilessly. It will be a bad, you have got to get outside consulting help, fresh eyes looking on your business because you started the business and you're passionate about it. You love it. You want it to work out. But there are folks like myself and like Danielle here is where we can look at the business with a very objective view and say, this is what needs to be done. This is your measurables. These are who you need to bring in if you want to stay in business. This is not a process that you should try to take on for you by yourself. Trust me, I've seen 6 businesses go under. 6 businesses that I've worked for go under because they failed to do this part of it. I want to make sure we're on the record saying that as well.
Yeah, and just to emphasize what you said earlier, Aswan, that business it's business, it's not personal. And so, if you've been hiring people because you think, oh, I'll get along with them, oh, I'd enjoy having a beer with them, you're not hiring a friend, people.
Yeah. That
You should hire someone who could do the job better than you could do the job.
right.
As a business owner in the early stages, you wear multiple hats and you can do everything, but your job is to replace you with the 2.0 version of you. The
Right.
person who can do that piece that you've been okay doing
Mhm.
better than you. Entrepreneurs, we're wired differently than line level employees. And
Mhm.
you have to recognize that, you know, we're an entrepreneur. We love risk. We can multitask like no other. This is our baby. Like it's just we're wired differently and we cannot have the expectations of what we put on ourselves
Mhm.
on employees. We
Right.
have to keep it real simple with employees, real specific, real direct.
Right.
So after the assessment, if they score 70% or higher, they move on to the screening interview. So
Mhm.
we look at the resume, no red flags, move on to the screening interview. That's about 10 minutes or so,
Mhm.
just getting to know the candidate, just kind of like, okay, this will work. And then they move on to a skills test because
Mhm.
we don't need to spend any more time with them unless they show that they have the actual skills to be able to come into the job.
Mhm.
Because when you make a 5-star hire, they don't need 90 days probationary period.
Mhm.
I've never had a hire since I've implemented my own system in my own companies over the last 12, 15 years. I've never had someone not make it past training, not make it past onboarding, not be successful.
Mhm.
And uh, they should be hitting the ground at 50 miles an hour. You need to get them up to 100 miles an hour right away. Most businesses fail in the onboarding big time, and they just give the candidate too much rope,
Right.
and and they're too slow, and the candidate is bored, or the candidate gets trained to be like, oh, I don't even have to be that busy.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have candidates, you need to put the pedal to the metal, and so you need to be, ready to onboard. And it's not onboarding's not hard. It just takes a little bit of thought. Stop winging it, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be intentional about this.
Right.
So after the skills test, if they pass the skills test, then you would move them on to a deep dive interview. And we like to do a deep dive on the 11 universal qualities of a five-star employee. And so we've identified 11 universal qualities, and you want to ask questions about their universal qualities. I'm not going to go over all of them today, but I will highlight two of them.
Right.
But if you want the entire list of the 11 universal qualities, you can text the word team to 55444. Again, that's team to 55444, and you will get all the 11 universal qualities and a quick litmus test that will show you how you can use this in your hiring process. But two of the 11 qualities are coded red, and these two qualities coded red are ginormous, just red flags. If someone is not limber, and if someone does not listen, then they're not going to be a fit for your organization, because small businesses really need employees who are limber and who listen.
Yes.
We use the term limber from an employer perspective because employees want flexibility, and we need employees who are limber, and those are two different things.
Exactly.
So you want to test people, and you want to understand things. So if you're an organization that occasionally requires overtime, or, someone to stay after their shift, etc., then ask a question like, well, tell me about the last time that you had to, work past the end of your shift. And you want to use questions about tell me about. You want to have them explain to you scenarios and situations in their current or prior employment, because how they respond to that is indicative of their behavior, and how they've behaved in the past is how they will behave for you. And when I get a candidate who seems like responds to that and says, oh yeah, well, yeah, they've asked me to do that, but I just can't. I have to leave at 5 and da da da. And it's like, okay, well then, to me, that's the red flag that says you're not going to be a fit for this role. So, I thank you so much for applying, and good luck in your job search. They haven't just applied to you; they've got other irons in the fire. So it's okay when you realize that this person's not a fit. You just let them go at that point. I've had screening interviews end in less than a minute. And
it's because and that saves you a lot of time, because the system is in place for you to save time as it is, which is important too.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's not fair to the candidate to lead them on if you know that they're not a fit.
Right.
So so you want to ask questions that give a sense of, tell me about, give them scenarios of things that are important to you, or I say success leaves clues, but failures leave lessons. So think about those employees that were mishires. There's lots of lessons in there about if I could do this differently, what would I need to ask to have identified this?
Exactly.
Because I missed it before. And now you can apply it going forward.
Yeah, exactly. So just so we're on the record now, we're starting with the assessment. Then we have the screening, correct? Then we have the skills test, and the fourth one was the actual deep dive interview.
Yeah, around the 11 qualities.
Around the 11 qualities with code red. Make sure you're limber. Make sure you're able to do certain things, and you have the ability to do multiple things in the company. I say it all the time. So the acronym SWIFTLY, the name of the podcast, it's skilled, well-informed front team workers. And then I put everyone in the category. Then the LY stands for lift yourself. So it's a front team doing skilled teamwork. And that's how I develop my workshop. But what's number 5? What's the fifth thing to kind of...
Yeah. So the fifth thing is the test drive or shadow day. So
here we go, baby. Now you're all right. Game.
Now we're we're going to kick all four tires. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can do this. If it's a remote position, you can still have a shadow day, test
Yeah.
drive day. And if it's an in-office position, you have them come in
Yeah.
and you give them a sense 4 to 5 hours of what a day in the role is like.
Right.
And
Huh.
and you also want to kind of like break bread with them. You want the other team members to meet with them. You
Right.
also kind of want to put yourself out of this too and let the team members like have lunch with them because then they'll let their guard down. They'll talk a little bit more. This is so important. But again, you want them to see and you want them to see, is this the right fit? So you want to give them tasks. So, one of my favorite things is, okay, we're going to have a meeting with a client and would like you to take notes. And then after the meeting, we're going to give you 15 minutes to write a 6 sentence recap email.
Mm. Yeah.
And so we set the expectations before, and we're going to see, like, how quickly can they pick this up? How quickly can they get into this? And so you want to have a test drive day that is very consistent. You don't want to, again, stop winging it, people. Like if there's anything, just stop winging it. Put in a system and a process that you flip the switch and you already know what you have to do. Your 11 qualities, you just pull the packet off the shelf and you ask the questions.
Right.
When it's a test drive day, you already have the agenda set out, and you just insert a client meeting that is scheduled, or you do mock meetings, and so that they get a sense. I had someone who was working in property management and applied for our assistant contracts manager in my construction material supply company, and they wanted to get out of property management and move into construction. They came for the test drive day and they actually did 2 days for this role. And after the second day, they said, you know what? I thought I wanted to be construction, but I think I'm going to stay in property management. And I'm like, great, no problem. Because
Right.
I paid this person $250 for, 4 or 5 hours for 2 days.
Mhm.
And if I wouldn't have had that test drive day, he
Right.
passed the skills test. He passed everything with flying colors. But if we wouldn't have had that test drive day, I would have given him the job. He would have hated it after a week. And
Hey.
his resume is still active out there because when someone's applying to your job, they've applied to 50 other jobs.
Right.
You just got to them first.
Yes.
And so someone else would have called him. He might have lasted, a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Right.
But wow, what wasted payroll if on that
Mm.
would have been a mishire. And
Right.
and and mishires, you guys, mishires cost a lot.
A
Like,
lot of
let's
money.
recap the money here.
Cost a
If he
lot of
would have been
money.
with me for 3 months, I would have paid him, $18,000 in salary. I for
There's
3 months,
insurance. There's insurance that get that for every employee too.
benefits,
Benefits. There's certain things. There's a lot of
employer taxes.
there's a lot of
My time, my
Right.
team's time in training someone who didn't want to stay at least 23,000. Can we like
Yeah, I mean, it
say that?
balloons up. Yeah, I actually put that like I put it was a graphic I put out there one point. There's a lot to replace one person. So could you imagine a lot of these companies replacing people left and right, people leaving? It's a lot of money that
Yeah.
you as a
Retention,
employer may not.
retention should be measured in 18 months. So,
Yeah,
someone who stays with you for 18 months or more, that's a good hire. Anyone who stays with you less than 18 months is a mishire.
right.
So your number, your metric you should be shooting for is 90%. You
Yeah,
should have a 90% success rate in hiring.
yeah.
So, like here, a mishire that I've had over the last 5 years was someone who had worked in the claims examiner role
Mhm.
and had been with us for about like 5 or 6 months, doing a great job, came to us and said, so my wife got a fellowship at Oxford University. We're moving to the UK.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That's
Right.
great.
Right.
Never happened to us before. Never had someone that had a life-changing experience like that.
Mhm.
And, so I mean, technically he was a mishire. I did evaluate, do I need to test for this going forward? And
Right.
then I realized this is a fluke.
Mhm.
And you can't test for everything and such. But I mean, our hiring success rate is 95%. So
Exactly.
it's okay. It's never going to be 100%. But we
Right.
have to understand, like, again, you set the bar. Like, I don't want anything less than
90.
this, and I don't want anything less than 90% when it comes to retention.
So I do want to be very respectful. I appreciate you, really breaking that whole thing down, but I do want to be very respectful of your time. But I do have to ask now, because this AI revolution, the AI world and how it's come about, if at all, how has it affected your system? What kind of things have been beneficial, have been difficult? Walk us through about this artificial
Yeah.
intelligence world.
So it's really interesting. Because again, if you're winging it when it comes to AI, you are prime for someone to be leveraging AI to fake it
Yep.
and try to impress you. So resumes are so 1950s.
Mm,
So resumes are like, you know, useless. They're pretty useless, honestly. I mean, there can be some information in there, et cetera, but you cannot judge a candidate on their resume.
mm,
That's why you have the assessment. No one, no one can AI this assessment.
mm. But the thing is, like, let me ask you this though. The person who's creating the assessment, they can possibly use AI to make it so it's a better filter based on the human brain. Like, because that's how I've approached AI. I have a human brain. I was stubborn. I was like most people. I'm not using it because I write my own stuff. I'm my own
Yeah.
creator. But the more I use it, the more data they collect on me,
Yeah.
and they may see something that I miss or something may come out. But it
Right.
takes the human brain to
Yeah.
create the filtration system for the right candidate. But it still takes a human brain, folks. That's the main point. It still takes a human brain with the right intention for you to get the best results.
Yeah, yeah. So everyone takes the assessment because no matter what the results, they're a 5-star fit for something. They just might not be a 5-star fit for a role in the company that you have. So by having the assessment as your front end initial filter,
Yeah.
they can't AI it because
No.
because because they don't know what the benchmark is for the
Right.
role. Because
Right.
every role is unique to the benchmark for the company. So we help the company design their benchmark.
Yes.
Um, and so because and resumes again so 1950s that someone can take the job post, the vanilla job post that you have with vague responsibilities, if
Yeah.
any responsibilities,
Yeah.
vague skills, etc., and say make me a resume for this.
Hmm.
And like that they can have a fake resume, and unless you're calling and checking references and such, if something's suspicious, call. We were doing a screening 2 weeks ago for one of our members, and something seemed like it didn't add up, and but he seemed nice, but there was a question about something. So at the screening interview phase, no, I'm sorry, this was at the deep dive. Something conflicted
Hmm.
between the screening interview and the deep dive. And so before we move them forward, I we had our someone on our team call his prior employer, and there was a discrepancy in what he told us and what the employer said, and I'm always going to believe the employer.
Hmm.
um and so that candidate didn't move forward. So whenever you see a red flag, whenever something doesn't feel right in your gut, you have to go with it, because again, in terms of those failures leave lessons, think back to your mishires, and there were things that were mentioned by the candidate or things that came up when you were interviewing that candidate that ended up being a mishire that you ignored, that you're just like, oh, must just be me. Oh, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Because again, you're winging it. You're being kind of lazy. And when you're winging it, you're just flying by the seat of your pants. When you have a process and system in place, like it just works. It works consistently.
Yeah, I have a business coach who always says, your system should be working harder than you are. And that's an important phrase. It should be working harder than you are. So, like I said, I do want to be very respectful of your time. Can you just tell people a little bit about what's next, how they can get in touch with you if they want to hear more and all that good stuff? Go ahead and
Yeah, yeah. Well, the easiest thing is to really just text the word team to 55444. Get that guide, and then you'll also be able to access some other resources that we have, and information, and it's doing wrong is easy. Doing right is hard, but we make the hard easy.
That part. Man, take him to church. All right, Danielle. So the final thing I do to close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. I want you to pretend, go back to being that girl that rolled over in a pillow. She's got to go deal with Larry. I want you to pretend Larry's here. You can pretend Larry's here and you're in that place now where you rolled over your pillow. Give that young lady some words of encouragement. I believe you said you were 25, so pretend that 25-year-old version of you is here. Give her some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
So I would tell that girl that it never gets easier and it's a roller coaster and there's ups and downs, twists and turns, but it's an adventure that makes you stronger, smarter, and wiser the more you just keep going.
And that's it. The mic is officially dropping with that one. It is, and the reason I close out with that question is because, like I said at the beginning, whatever you're going through currently, we're here to indirectly tell you're not going through it alone. So, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.